Welcome, welcome, business owning moms, to my coveted maternity leave planning roadmap. We are honestly rounding out a very incredible and very, very impactful series of our maternity leave roadmap here on the podcast. If you haven't heard all the episodes, if you want everything we've shared and all the templates and everything in one place, you can go to mastermaternityleave.com/roadmap to get access to everything instantly, all of my tips and tricks, and leading you through 30 really intentional action items that you can do to plan your self-employed maternity leave. Today's episode, honestly, is a little bit more personal than it is a tactic in maternity leave planning, which is, if y'all know me and you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, is somewhat unlike me. I'm usually tying lots of things to tactics, things you can be doing, frameworks, those types of things. And I want to tell you a little bit about my maternity leave experience, or at least my postpartum experience. For those of you who know my story, you know I did not take a maternity leave with my first son. My business was about 3 years old, and I remember being in the thick of business and baby, and I really, really was challenged with my identity around being a business owner and being a mom. And there was this day where we had to go to a doctor's appointment, and I couldn't get Frank in the car within the amount of time that I had planned. It took us about 25 minutes to get everything together and get in the car. And then he'd had a blowout. And then so we had to go back and change him up. And if you have a kiddo at home, you absolutely have had probably a similar experience to this, whether it's going to the doctors, getting in the car, something always happens like that, it feels like. And I remember having this moment of, how can I be an 8-figure business owner, advisor? Like, how could I really be behind the scenes of these big companies if I can't get my baby into the car in under 25 minutes? And I remember how much it meant to me to make progress in motherhood. And, there's something that is true about those kind of early newborn days. My husband and I always joked that if you've seen that Bill Murray movie, Groundhog's Day, where he, is super callous and just kind of moves through life, not really thinking about how he's affecting others. And then he is forced to relive that day time and time and time and time again. And it happens to be Groundhog's Day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And that is literally what the kind of newborn bubble can feel like sometimes. It can feel like you do the same thing every day, but you don't see any progress, like none at all, until you go inward. And so in the movie, he has to like confront his own challenges with letting other people in and seeing that although people have different opinions than he has, that they're still beautiful and can still be understood. And so it's so interesting because motherhood in those first few months is that it's experiencing that Groundhog's Day and being in a position where you can kind of embrace the slowness and the, I guess, challenge too of the season. And when you take your maternity leave as a self employed individual, I struggled with this a lot, but a lot of the things in our business that tell us that we're doing really well, that we're doing the right things, they offer us immediate feedback, right? You can see progress, you can see people developing, you can see your revenue line increasing. You don't really get that in early motherhood. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what data can we look at? Like, can we say that he's happy and healthy because he's eating X amount of ounces of formula or breast milk? Can you really calculate like how well he's doing based on how much he's sleeping and all those other things? And then when I would look at some of the data on motherhood, it would be such a huge range. And I remember getting so frustrated. I was like, I guess I'm in the range of normal, but why does this still feel so challenging? And I just want to encourage you to relax, at least as much as you can. So the reason I founded Master Maternity Leave was to make sure that all the business stuff was shored up behind the scenes so that you could be present for the transitionary season. And it is just that. It is a transition and it is a season. So when we're feeling like it's Groundhog's Day, when we're feeling like the basics that we can kind of do for the entire week is like just to get up and get a shower and make sure that the baby is fed, like that's all that we can do. And I encourage, especially my type A business owning moms, I know because I am one, there isn't like progress to be had during this time. And try to, as much as you can, and use your anchor activity for this. If you don't know what an anchor activity is and you're just tuning in, it's really a habit that you build through pregnancy and postpartum and then after, where you can kind of anchor in, your feelings, how you're thinking about things, what's bringing you joy, what isn't, where you might need some additional support so that, as expected, when things change, you can kind of pivot and meet some of those demands. So take it to your anchor activity. Really, really make sure that you're thinking about that progress or that perfection or any of those things. Are it really for this season? This season really is just about being present in the way that feels best for your family. Just being able to slow down. I've spoken tons of time on the podcast and a lot of our content just about how hard it was for me because I was so go, go, go. I had a full calendar. I had a full client load. I had so many things on my plate that I don't even know if maternity leave came and I did have the bandwidth to be able to take off, if I would have even really known how to do that. I see that so often in colleagues and friends of mine who say that they, go on vacation and they take a week off to be with their family, but they've worked, tirelessly up until the day that they leave for vacation. And then their body doesn't even know how to relax. It doesn't know how to stop thinking about work. And so then they end up whipping out their laptop or doing things on vacation that they kind of feel bad about later. So I just invite you to think about this space as it's okay to just be a time that is a pause. It's an okay time to not feel like you're making any progress. I think about a lot of plants who grow lots of roots first before you can kind of see anything above ground. And I do believe that early postpartum is a lot like that, where you feel like you can't see visible progress, or you feel like it's the same thing every day with no end, and you're never really solving a problem entirely. It just pops right back up, kind of like you're playing whack a mole. And, I just want to encourage that it's very normal. And I want to encourage as well that it's okay. And all of the same things, all of the same opportunities will be there for you when you get back into the business. And, I remember thinking when I was postpartum with my first son and even my second, opportunities would come in and, I would think about them and be like, "Oh, could we commit? Could we do this? And could I fit this in?" And I think having something, like an anchor activity, like a job description for yourself when you come back, which we'll talk about here before we wrap the series, but it's just such an important thing to have that filter through which you put everything. And some of the opportunities that might pass in that season, whether it's a speaking opportunity or a client that you could have served or something like that, that's okay. And I believe that letting that go is a leadership exercise, and there will be more on the other side of maternity leave. So it's going to be challenging. I never say to my moms who are in our programs or that I work with one-on-one through this process that this whole thing is going to be easy, that it's going to feel, like really, really simple, but it definitely can be easier, when you have things shored up behind the scenes. So I hope that this was helpful. If you are challenged by how to plan your maternity leave very tactically, I hope that you'll go and grab a copy of our roadmap series here. Again, mastermaternityleave.com/roadmap. You've got all of the emails, all of the templates, and everything that you could need to plan this, especially if you have the gift of time. Maybe you're trying to conceive, or maybe you're early on in your pregnancy. If you do not have the gift of time, if you're like, Allie, I'm due in a few months and I really need to know what the heck is going on, I have a fantastic workshop. It is at mastermaternityleave.com/workshop. It'll show you exactly the simple system that you can put together to plan maternity leave if you are self-employed. And, it goes through all the financials, the state benefits, make sure that you have the key systems set up, that you've got a good team in place to support you. And it's really, really amazing. So head over to mastermaternityleave.com/workshop to go and enroll for the workshop. It's absolutely free. And thank you guys again for joining me.